Hello.
Hi, Justin.
Guys, sorry to keep you waiting.
All good to go, Justin?
Yeah, all good to go. Let's do it.
All right.
All right. So, to all the listeners and watchers, we want to welcome you to another episode. Today, we have Justin with us, and we are going to dive into a sweet, sweet world of creativity, culinary, artistry, and of course, Justin's magic of, making edible masterpieces. Yeah, I think that's like the perfect intro. What do you think, Justin?
I think you did absolutely amazing. That's probably the best intro I've ever gotten. And normally, my business name is so complicated. Most people always say Cakes by Justin,
Right.
Justin's Cakes. I've heard it all, so I think it's actually incredible. Thank you for that intro.
Do you have a certain title that you enjoy associating yourself to? Like a baker? What do you call yourself?
I've gone through all of them, and I have yet to figure out which one fits me the best because I feel like I'm jumping between them. Baker, of course, I love to be referred to as a baker. But interestingly, when I got into this business, I was mostly in it for the art. So I was doing art in college, and then eventually got my hands on some fondant and buttercream and food coloring. And so baking became kind of like the post product of all of that.
So we can call you a cake artist.
Call me Mr. Amazing. No, I'm just kidding.
All right, Mr. Amazing. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And
Of course.
we are going to try to put, you said 15 years of being in this industry, is it? Or a little more than that now?
About 50, yeah, 15 going on 17 actually. Time flies.
So we'll try our best to put 17 years of experience into this podcast episode. And let's break it down. Justin, this journey of yours, obviously, it kind of has three phases, right? One, how it all started. Two, why you felt like you should continue doing this because, you have those low moments in life, right? And when did you decide, okay, it doesn't matter, let me continue doing this? That should be in between these 17 years, right? And finally, where do you stand today? And then what do you see is happening in the future for, Bake with Justin or, Cook with Justin, whatever it is. Let's go back in time and start with how it all started. Yeah.
For sure. Well, a 15-year-old me would have never assumed any of this was possible or didn't think that this was going to be something for me. I think at that period of my life, I was mostly curious with just getting to experience life to the fullest. I had no real ambition. Even going into college, I wasn't sure what my degree was going to be. So, but I did know that I wanted to be very, very far from my parents.
Okay.
So I looked at a school that was a potential opportunity, and it was in Washington, D.C., or nearby at least, kind of in the Maryland area. And I said, perfect. This is geographically the furthest place. And not to mention, as somebody with big, bright eyes, I wanted to kind of see what the East Coast was like and just sort of get familiar in that aspect. So I packed my bags and I headed to college. I was 17, 18 years old. 15 years old, me was just sort of trying to figure out what to do. And college was the next avenue, right? I didn't have any real objectives other than just follow my parents' lead at that point. So the first goal was to do college. So I finished high school. I get familiar with what slowly with what I want to do. Eventually, baking became a part of that, but it was a big surprise to me. My mom was a baker and made all of my birthday cakes.
Okay.
And she influenced us without even knowing it. My sisters have no interest in baking, but me at 15, seeing my mom making all these fun things, it was actually an interesting way for me to realize that it was an artistic avenue. And not only that, it was a big stress reliever for her because she had three kids. And I remember when she was baking, she was like, get out of the kitchen. I need everybody out. I need to be on my own. And really, I've learned that that's what baking is all about. It's just a fun little thing that you can put all of your energy into and avoid the outside world. And yeah, so at 15, I feel like I'm jumping a million ways. I love doing podcasts, but my brain is so scattered.
That's okay. I wanted to ask, so what degree were you trying to pursue? And then when did you end up going to that first workshop or, a class related to baking? When did that switch happen?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, well, the big catalyst for me in my life is that when I was 15, I was diagnosed with kidney failure.
Okay.
And it was a tremendous, I think of my life before and after that, because that diagnosis really changed my life trajectory.
Right.
And from that perspective, I was just completely terrified. I had no idea where my life was going to go or if I was going to continue living. You know, it was a very scary time.
Right.
In that period of my life, I was in high school and I took some time away from high school to heal, to make sure that as an immune compromised person taking medications to suppress that, I needed to be very careful. So my mom made she made the choice to take me out of high school, and I'm really grateful for it because in that space is where I sort of began to connect the dots. My mom had been a baker for so long, and here I am not having any sort of direction in my life. I'm doing homeschooling. I'm feeling isolated. She was like, well, here's a spatula, here's this cake, you know, give it a shot. You have nothing to lose.
Right.
And she came home one day and I decorated these 3 little cakes. And those little cakes were sort of like the small burning ember of what would be like this massive thing. Because from that perspective, from that point, I took a cake decorating class at my local craft store. And it was me and like 6 women in their 40s and 50s is my favorite. Like I totally was an outsider in that space. But 17 years ago, this wasn't an industry like it is now.
Right.
There's so many men in this space. But yeah, I loved it so much. They became my confidants, my friends, and I learned so many things from them that I eventually ditched that school. I never got my degree, so I'm a cake decorating class dropout. And I started taking orders, and orders became the next part of it.
That's incredible. So at age 15, like, is it right to say that you figured out what your calling was? Like, was that the moment where you went, this is it, like for the rest of my life?
Did you have interest yourself? Because from where we come from, back in India, we don't really are given a lot of, career options as such. It's either like engineering, doctor, and those kind of fields. So, and those were something I remember that weren't really interesting for me. So when you were given a spatula and you were told, okay, let's do this, is that an interest you had, or did you have like, okay, I want to do something else, not this at that point of time?
At that time, I was just curious to get my hands on anything. Life had really sent me a curveball. So that was the one thing that I could sort of cling to. So whether I liked it or not, it was truly just an outlet for me. And I think I was still discovering that because I'd love to say that I kept cake decorating going, but I actually side swiped that and I went to get a degree in social work, which was which was something else I enjoy and is a big passion of mine. But my trajectory with this cake business is certainly not linear. There's many ups and downs, and one of them being my college experience getting a degree in social work that I don't use now. So,
Right.
yeah,
Well,
and
you did go to, you mean you didn't really go to college and, be under those professors and those kind of stuff, but now you ended up, being an educator yourself.
Yeah.
that's true. It's kind of full circle. It's really crazy to think about. And if I actually think about it, I never really was far away from cake decorating. Do you know what my job was in college? I worked at a bakery. So
Oh,
it's like it never really left me. But here's the funny part. This is so crazy. Is the bakery I worked for was very prestigious. They had done lots of really big things, the cakes for Jennifer Lopez, the Pope. I mean, it goes on and on and on.
okay.
And I was so excited to do it that I was just I told them that I was a really professional cake artist, and they believed me, and that was not the case. By that time, you guys, I was barely able to frost the cake. It was bad, but I was so excited to have a possibility with this company that I was like, oh, please hire me, and they did, and I worked for them through college. So the funny part is like a week into it, they realized I wasn't good, so they put me on the phones. And they were like, this is not your calling. You need to figure, we're just going to pay you to clean and sweep and stuff like that. But I was watching. So in the corner of my eye, when I was sweeping, I was like, oh, that's how you do that. Okay, well, oh, see, I like that little tool you have there. What are you doing? And slowly picking up on that. So I never really left it, but I did get a degree that inspired a lot other things inside of me. I have a big compassion for people, and one of my heart goes out to lots and lots of people, especially folks who are disenfranchised and minorities. And I worked with veterans who had mental disabilities, and it's a big struggle, you know.
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
do you remember top of your head? I mean, there must be so many moments and highlights of, of your life that had happened in the past 17 years.
Mhm.
Uh, Especially the transition. I think 17 years ago, it was not really online as much. as it is today, right? You call it the cake shows, the competitions, and and putting yourself out there, content, digital media, and everything. Do you
Mm.
remember that transition that you had to go through, being offline and doing only like in person, to now mostly doing it online?
And
Yeah.
becoming a viral sensation at that.
That I credit to COVID, actually. A lot of people had to transition their businesses online because many of us were doing fairly well, just getting, regular traffic. But then eventually, when COVID hit, it really turned the perspective onto your content creation.
Right.
So that's where I felt it was, not to say that I wasn't very active on social media beforehand. And I love questions about social media because I'm very curious how the whole thing works myself, but I
Yeah.
have discovered some unique hacks that have helped me get to where I'm at now.
Okay.
One of them being just putting personality out there.
Right.
And when COVID hit, I realized that I was doing in-person classes for 60, 70 people sometimes, and we still do that every Monday. And I had a personality that I was comfortable with in front of people, which is like $1 million thing. Oh, in social media, it's such a weird game, and it tends to just fluctuate constantly. And the funny thing is I feel like some people think they have it figured out, but in my head, nobody has it figured out.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah, it's I'm still learning it, but I will say that when I first started, one of the biggest hurdles is people getting over 1,000 followers, and I was so adamant on doing that. For some reason, that was just a big part of my plan, and I remember going to local news station Instagrams or any local business page and going into their followers list and being like, follow, because I knew that that person was local and supportive
Yeah.
of local businesses.
Right.
And I don't know how respectful that is. To be honest, I wouldn't care if people were fishing for my followers, but
Right.
I thought that it was a really helpful plan, and it got me to 1,000 very quickly. So if anybody out there needs 1,000 followers, just go hit up other business pages and check out their followers.
Has it consumed you though? Like, do you have support with people handling your social media, something like that, or has it consumed your energy, and does it affect your focus on other things in life that needs your focus?
Absolutely. I think after having in social media, you're going to have very up moments and very down moments, and I think we're constantly chasing those up moments, right?
Yeah.
Where something will hit a viral moment, and you're just like, "Oh, that's the money. How do I get back to that?" And then you spend months, if not years, trying to get that moment back. And for whatever reason, Instagram decides what that viral moment is. So I've had to learn that whatever creation I put out there is up for is going to go how it goes.
Right.
But following trends has become very important, and that's been one of the most important parts of my career is figuring out what is popular and doing what is popular. And I think the trade-off there is that sometimes you're going to do stuff you don't necessarily feel that passionate to do. I'm speaking to the artists
Right.
because there are people who work in marketing and business who go, I don't care about your feelings, post that popular thing.
Yeah.
And then there's the artist that's like, but what about me? And it's I'm constantly tossing between those two minds where I know that the objective is to feed the machine, as it were, but ultimately to remember that your art is your art, and as long as you put it out there, that's the goal. You know that you just want eyes on your stuff, and if they like it, that's awesome. And but the trade-off I've had to do is I've had to oftentimes just dig into what I know works. And that's a clever marketing tip for people because we always want to post what we love. I mean, that's the objective.
Yeah.
However, the trends are sort of that shadow that kind of cast over that part of it.
Right.
And how do you think that, I mean, of course, this is tied to your, entrepreneurship and building your brand, right? Which
Mhm.
is Cake It with Justin. But do you have any challenges that, you want to share with the listeners that you faced, while building this brand and starting just something of your own?
Yeah, everything that you do has to be intentional. You have to go into it with a specific, I think a lot of people like to discover what their product is as they're going. But the more that you sit back, think about what the product is going to be, and then deliver that is when it looks the most polished.
Right.
I've often struggled with thinking, oh, maybe I'll just put this out there. I just need to put something out there. That's typically the thing that is not going to be the most received. You want to have it be the most well thought out concept. That is to say that things made on the fly don't hit it really well on social media are the best. But when I put intention behind it and when I think about what my message is when it gets connected to the audience.
Right.
And an example of that would be a hyper realistic cake that I've done. And the intention is that when I went into it, I could have simply just posted the cake on my countertop with overhead lighting and posted that. How good would that be compared to a cake that has perfect lighting, a staged video setting where I've put a corner of the kitchen to look this way, I've set up a plate and a napkin like this, and it's all been really intentional. So with things like that, I just try to make sure that, and when people ask me how to get their social media up, it is about creating something that's a little more polished than what you're doing. I think we can all afford to be a little bit better. And then the other part of that is working on being the most authentic you, which takes a heap of learning to do. I don't think there's enough podcasts to describe how important that is, because people online, you and I, are very discerning. We look at social media posts and in 3 seconds, we can tell if we like it or not.
Yeah.
And so every post you do has to have that kind of thought behind your head. Is the first 3 seconds engaging enough? Is it the best I can accomplish? Or if I spend an extra 15 minutes on it, how much better can it be?
I can clearly see why you became like a teacher, educator, because you explained it so well. And I think your team, Monica, because she believes in this, everything that you put out there has to be, you have to put your heart, mind, and soul in it. Because imagine like you put like 100 posts out there, and then when you look at those 100 posts back, there's no organization, right? There's no story behind it. It's just all over the place. And now when we, for example, our podcast, when you take a moment, you upload those thumbnails and make it more aesthetic looking. And when you look back at it now, 100 posts, they tell you a story. Okay, this is the page, this is what they do, and this
Exactly.
is how they usually do it.
And you can almost always see improvement from your most recent one to like the earliest one that you put out.
Right.
Oh man, absolutely. And I will say in my journey, I have bought so many studio lights, many Amazon products that are just very cheap because I was looking for something. And my setup now is legit, you guys. I've put real money into this and it is looking pretty good. But I have to, if you scroll down, and I haven't deleted them, there is some videos and back in the day. Woo! Yeah, but we're up a lot of posts now. I think on my Instagram I've got at this point 632 posts. So if you're 50 posts in and worried about your engagement, please don't. You're going on a journey and this is going to take a while.
Yeah, you're in it and there's no backing out in a way. But what do you have to say about the investment, the money aspect of it, Justin? The time is important, energy is important, but like you said, investing in good products, let it be for, creating that content or digital content, recording studio, or, a good backdrop, lighting, or even for the cakes or the cookies themselves, the ingredients and those kind of stuff, quality products are very essential, right? How important is that? Do you have to tell to the young audience out there, when you're starting out, do take the time to invest in these kind of things?
But the truth is not everyone can, right?
Exactly.
Especially when they're starting out. I mean, maybe they can't afford that sort of a setup. And what do you have to say to those kind of students?
I have been there. I will say I have many times had to figure out what I have and use that as my own tools. I've not always been in a space this fortunate. And for myself, I'm still on my way to get better and better things. But in the beginning, I had to use whatever light I had with whatever countertop that I had. But I will say, the true creators out there will make anything look like $1 million because you're just that good. And that's the finessing it takes, is to put something out there, examine it, and maybe not beat yourself up over it, but take account for what can be changed. And there are so many different hacks you can use. I was just speaking to somebody who has who worked with the simplest lighting. And let me tell you, overhead lighting from a kitchen space is not the most ideal. If you can find natural lighting from a window source for
Yeah.
baked goods or for anybody in an industry that has beauty products or anything, that's way better than than lighting that you can create in your home without any special effects. I also suggest people just simplify it the best way that you can. I think we try to overcreate when we don't have enough, and then that's when it looks kind of bad, right? That's when it looks a little bit like too try hard.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and here's the best part. There are many resources available on YouTube and just around you that you can use and establish for yourself. It doesn't take a lot to create something good. It just takes a little bit of creativity. But I will say, as you are investing, it's a scary game because you want to make sure that investment is returned, and say you're putting all this effort in and you're not getting engagement on your posts. I will say, like, buying beautiful lighting equipment doesn't equal engagement. It has to be kind of this symbiotic space where you're just utilizing both really well.
Right.
Um, and so if you can learn social media and then build up your lighting and studio space eventually, that's way better than just starting with a gorgeous studio, being in the red, and then creating
Yeah.
kind of crap content.
It sort of reminds me, funnily, that all it takes is a couple of stones to start that spark, and you can use that fire to either destroy a house or make something
Absolutely.
good out of it,
Roast
right?
a marshmallow.
Yeah, roast marshmallow.
Yes. And if you don't have the best space, if you have to kind of compensate in one way. Say that you don't have the best space. There are personalities on Instagram right now who are operating out of a cardboard box. There are people who have absolutely nothing, but they take up this space that they have themselves and they lift that up. And that's sort of that's the magic, is we can play with the internet the best way we can. The audience is excited for you to do well. They're not looking for you to fail. They want to go on social media and see awesome things.
Right.
So give them awesome things.
Where do you get your inspiration for all these cakes that you make that look so realistic? You give out education out there to the people, but how do you stay up to date, and is it an everyday learning?
There's so many things involved,
Yeah.
like we spoke about. There's artistry, which is, you're basically artists. I use the word magicians even for Kayla. I'm like, I don't know how
Love
you
that.
guys do this, but it's absolutely magic the way you create something out of just ingredients.
Yeah.
And there's architecture. Sometimes you have to think about structure, you have to think about the way it looks, you have to also think about the way it tastes.
Yeah.
And it's an
Absolutely.
overall process, right?
Yeah.
It established in steps. So like I said, I started out as an artist in this space, and I loved getting to try everything. I loved painting, I loved sculpting, and I really wanted to learn how to build. But then baking became a very big part of the process. In the beginning of my cake career, and even just a few years throughout, I loved using a box cake mix. Okay, you can arrest me right now. Betty Crocker has my heart forever. But and there's nothing wrong with that. If there are bakers out there using box mix, if your profit margin is slight, you need to use cheaper ingredients. But I loved learning how to bake. It was the secondary part of this process, and there were so many delicious things I tried, and I'm very excited to say now that I've got some very good recipes. So if you're in the market, cakeitwithjustin.com/recipes. They're all there. That eventually led to bigger projects where I had to learn how to build stuff. And my dad is huge at helping me with that. In fact, my whole family is really, really involved in this Cake It with Justin game. My mom helps me on my cookie nights, and my dad helps me build armatures. And all of it has just been trial and error. But I am constantly inspired by many people online. And I think I have a serious case of FOMO, because I look at something and I'm like, oh, I need to do that. And so I just eventually practiced with it and gave it a shot. I will say, like, television shows in America are something else, and we compete not for money but for blood. So you're starting to bake a cake, and all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, bakers, we're gonna drop you in a pit of snakes," and that's just how it is. Okay, so we're playing a crazy game, and I grew up watching Cake Boss and Ace of Cakes, and they were massive influences for me. And eventually, I learned about hyper realistic cakes from artists like Sugar Geek Show, Johnny Cakes, and the likes of those people. Then the massive hit Is It Cake came out, and then I wanted a bite of that. So I've just been saying, I think the trick to all this is I've just been saying yes to all of it. I have yet to say no to a project.
How have you been dealing with the popularity side of it? Has it been a lot since
I
being
mean,
on these
yeah,
networks?
especially after being on Netflix, you know, you became like a household name, and
I-
now everyone knows KK with just.
In your region, maybe specifically, and then, on a global perspective, how has, audience been affected?
Oh,
Yeah.
globally, I think all of my castmates have gotten massive attention. I think that this Is It Cake show is on Netflix in like 150 languages.
Wow. Mhm.
And I just can't wait to see how they dub me in every language because I would love to know how I sound to other people. But because you know that the voice actor really just went in because I was very animated on the show. So Is It Cake was a fun experience. I will say it was the wildest show I had ever done. And it had reached the most people. Before that, I was on a show called Baketopia with this popular YouTuber who I eventually became her culinary manager for, and then another show called Christmas Cookie Challenge. And Is It Cake was the biggest one because it was Netflix. And I had only been on cable shows at the time, so they were local networks, or they were just network TV. But this was streamable, so this was some pretty awesome opportunity. Um, the popularity from it is so cool. I will say, as somebody who got out second out of eight, I and then they this is the crazy part was I was so excited to be on the show, you guys, and then they let me out episode 2, and I swear I was so. Oh, by the way, you have to bleep that if that's already like a. I don't want to tell people if you haven't watched it yet, but
Okay. Yeah.
my journey with Is It Cake was slightly shorter than I thought it would be.
Right.
And it was so funny because when we got to Is It Cake, we didn't realize that they were eliminating people like that. So we were all just like super excited to go, and we're like, oh, we're all gonna stay the whole time. And when I tell you the first episode, that guy got eliminated. He's a friend of mine, Jared. And he stood on the platform and just very sad. It just rotated him this way. It was the saddest thing in my whole life. And we were all watching his dreams get crushed. Little did I know mine was on the way. But with that being said, TV is such a fun thing to do. I'm absolutely addicted to it. No matter the circumstances, I just love being entertaining to people.
Right.
And it hasn't really changed a lot. I will say I'll go out to like the grocery store here, and the first people that notice me are kids. It's like 7 and 8 year olds who love picking out cakes from lines of cake. So they walk up to me. They're like, "Oh my gosh, we loved Is It Cake? We thought you should have won." I was like, "Me too." And then we talk about all the other contestants and which ones we thought should have gone home. Sorry, guys. And which, by the way, I saw your episode with Kayla. Love Kayla. Kayla and I worked together on a commercial shoot the other couple of weeks ago. Kayla's so funny and so genuine. I love her.
She says the exact same things about you. We love this, thing that the castmates have going on, and we have to agree, Justin, you were extremely entertaining. Like we loved watching you, and of course, we also had those discussions where we wanted to, decide who deserved to be in the show and who deserved to get eliminated.
I wish you guys could see that group chat. It is so funny. If you guys could just be a fly on the wall when we were
Yeah.
up back in the green room for those episodes, it was such a fun experience. The aftermath has been so nice. Nobody has come up and been like, "I'm glad you went home." I wouldn't know what to do if they did. They're all so nice. It's one of those things where I feel so fortunate, and at the same time, as somebody who's done like 3 shows, it's so vulnerable every time I leave that show feeling like naked almost. I'm like, oh my gosh, I bared so much.
Right.
And but then at the end of the day, it's such a grain of salt moment for people. They just liked seeing you on TV. They just liked seeing you create stuff. They didn't care if you went home. They didn't care if, whatever.
Yeah.
It's I mean, the sad part is, yeah, you have to leave the show. And I asked Kayla the same thing. I was like, how did you just not cry? I would be sobbing on the floor if I got eliminated.
Me and Kayla are stone cold Steve Austin. We don't cry at all. Kayla and I were sitting in the back just like, this is whack. And we were chewing our gum and being like, girl, what's going on here? And Kayla is funny because she is examining everything. And there are so many times in the green room where Kayla was just like adding and subtracting in her head. And I was just like, she's not liking this.
Yeah.
Justin,
Yeah.
did you ever experiment with any Indian recipes for cakes? Maybe
Oh
ask
my
that.
gosh. I'm so glad you asked. I haven't yet, but I'm such a fan of Indian pastries. One of my favorite is this sort of like bread ball soaked in milk. and it is one of my. It has like cinnamon on top, and it is so good.
Ra-
Are you familiar with this?
Is it rasmalai or
I'm gonna Google it because
Yeah.
it's like a yeast ball, and okay, it's also it maybe is like also soaked in like a simple syrup or like a.
gulab jamun?
That's what it is.
The red color.
The reddish brown ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a crowd favorite. Indians are gonna love you after this episode.
Oh my God. Well, I'm not done with my journey with that because I have attempted every type of dessert and nothing's off the table for me. When I tell you I'm such a geek for this that I constantly research and I'm watching YouTube videos. Culture is so important to me. And one of the most interesting recipes I've discovered is one of my own culture, which is tres leches cake, which is a cake soaked in 3 milks,
Yeah.
and it's one of the most delicious cakes out there. It is sinfully delicious because it has a beautiful light whipped cream on it, and I've noticed there are different interests with different people and like sweetness levels, and I'm not putting anything. Do you guys have any ideas? I'm writing stuff down.
We will send you a few, and we'll be looking forward to see those on your page soon.
What if I get like a visa and I do Great British Bake Off and it's Indian week and I don't have any recipes? You guys need to send me some.
We will help you out. Don't worry. You can count on us.
She's a little baker herself, so
Ooh.
we did bake a little cake for our little one for his baby shower.
That's how it starts because we realize how expensive these are and we go, I can.
Oh yeah, you stole our words. Yeah.
And we're back.
Hey, take 2.
Justin, I realized that you were speaking about your mom and your culture, and I want to go back to that. How exactly has your culture, affected your baking choices, might I say?
Yeah. Well, interestingly, I grew up with a white mom, and then my dad is Hispanic, and my dad's culture influenced me tremendously. I was always extra curious about that side of my life because my mom's culture is she's there's not a lot going on over there. So when I was with my dad's side of the family, we were having fiestas, we were having potluck dinners, we were having so many more foods that I was introduced to that really inspired this thing. And so culturally speaking, it hasn't really embedded itself into my baking. What it does is it's part of my personality and how I connect with people. So
Right.
being part of a Hispanic culture is very important to me because my dad's family is so connected to that culture, and I feel only half connected to some degree. So it's weird as like a mixed race kid where I just find that I'm most interested in that part of it. How has it affected? It hasn't really affected my baking so much, but like I said, I'm ultra curious about every culture's foods. So and I'm like Anthony Bourdain in these streets. Okay, I will eat anything.
We love that, and because I think it's really important for anyone in a creative field to be open to new things and open to experimenting, right? Because unless you do that, then you may not find what you really want to stick with.
Right.
And it also sort of helps you pick out what you definitely don't want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's really nice to be able to be connected to my dad's family. One thing I am putting on my bucket list this year is to learn Spanish. Having a name like Salinas, Justin Salinas,
Yes.
really puts a lot of weight on me to know Spanish, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that can relate who have that part of them that they're connected to some degree, but maybe don't know the language. So I don't think that anyone should feel inferior in that way. But for me especially, I'm so interested in knowing language and getting connected in that degree. So that's the next thing for me is to learn Spanish. I'm on Duolingo and the membership is good. So I can learn all types of languages. Okay. I'm ready to learn Italian, French. It's all on the table.
Some Indian languages as well. We can help you with that if you'd
I'm
like.
so excited. How do you say baker?
It depends on which language.
Give me it's in.
So Hindi is
The
kind
most popular like Indian language, I think.
Okay,
yeah, but
the
we
Hindi word.
yeah, we come from the south part of India, and our mother tongues are Telugu, which is another language that exists out there. So you said baker.
Baker.
There is. I don't think there is a word for baker.
We need to join the Duolingo membership to learn our own language a little bit, but
There's so much English mixed into our language in
Yeah.
like
Yes.
a time that
Yeah.
we don't really have all the words.
I have to tell you that's also not that bad. My partner is he's fluent in Spanish to some degree, but he'll be speaking with his mom and we'll just like botch all of it. So so I'm like, weren't you the one who knows all this Spanish? Like, and then you're trying to come at me for not knowing all the words, and you can't even talk to your mom?
any words that you remember yet from Spanish that really
Oh yeah. Thank you for asking. Let's see. So if you want to say obviously this is I think everybody knows this one. Where's the bathroom? ¿Dónde está el baño?
Okay.
You can say tú eres triste, which is you are sad.
Okay.
That sounded so sexy, even though you were asking it.
Tú eres triste. It actually sounds like a telenovela too, where you're like holding up a bottle. What another ones would be? I'm just I learned the word for doctor, which is it's very hard to learn. I hope you guys can remember this. Doctor.
Any quotes, Justin? Every languages have these
sayings.
and then they come up on these Instagram, little audios. People use them, as trending, content. Any quotes that you can share with us? No.
In Spanish?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see.
That's okay. We'll cut this out.
I don't know any particular quotes. You put me on the spot here. You put me on the spot.
Okay, let's go. Let's try this again. Anything in English, that really inspires you? Any quotes that really stick to your heart?
Oh, well, I have to tell you, I call myself a prostitute, which is not it's very blue, I have to say, but it's so true. In my career, I've had to sling myself around and get $1 here and there. So yeah, that's my favorite one is I just call myself prostitutes, and I actually have merch now that says prostitute. Problem is it's only popular among a specific demographic of people who are interested in wearing that in public.
Right. But apart from all this, Justin, on a serious note, do you also try to communicate important topics that really need to be addressed? Maybe something related to your culture and background that you come from, or something that you experienced through this journey. Any topics that you like to speak up in platforms that you can?
Yeah, I mean, being like I mentioned before, when I first started in this industry, being male was sort of like it was a women-dominated community. There was platforms like MySpace, but for just cake decorators, and 90% of the users were women, 99 maybe. And so I faced diversity in maybe other ways, maybe not so much culturally, but maybe with being a guy, maybe being with being gay, with having a lot of things about me that may have set me off track, whereas I looked at it differently and thought, this is what makes me so unique. And when I discovered that, and when I took power of those things that make me so special, that's where your audience connects to you, because everybody can find the creator that's like very, that's the one that everybody knows. And I hate to point it out, but like blonde hair, blue eyes, that's a very typical user we see on the platform. Instagram is beautiful in that you get connected to anybody and you can really relate to everybody, where you're looking at this platform and you're like, how do I relate to this 65-year-old woman who's sewing? You know what I mean? Or how do I connect to this guy who's a guitarist and I don't play an instrument or care about music? I'm just getting connected to his story. I think that's the unique part of it, is everybody has their own story. And the best part is everybody can connect to it to some degree. Everybody faces challenges and everybody faces adversity. And I think the unique thing is on social media, we're voyeuristic in that we're watching these people navigate this world now. And in many ways, you feel very vulnerable because you're putting a lot of yourself out there. Your life is out there, your kids are out there, your finances are out there. It's all visible because, you know, if people are seeing this, you know, perfect product or this unperfect product, that's what it is. And I think that the relatability of being who you are and being unique is truly what makes people good creators.
I mean, Justin, I think this truly shows why you've been a hit, in the world out there, because it's also your personality. Yes, you're exceptional in the art that you do, but it's your personality that that wins the hearts out there as well. In this 1 hour of conversation that we had, we definitely fell in love with you and your ideologies and how you approach life in general.
Thank you
But
so much.
any advice as such for the people who are starting in this career in this industry, or trying to do something different out there?
Well, I say keep listening to this podcast because you two have created such a phenomenal platform where you're able to connect your audience with people who are on their journey. I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but for many people, this is the goal. So I
Right.
have to remind myself of that and to share that wherever you're at in your life, say the very beginning, the middle, or closer to where you think you're finished, never be satisfied with what you have. Keep going, but remember to just be happy with where you're at now. Because I've woken up many times thinking, oh, I need to lose 15 pounds tomorrow. How do I do that? Or 20 pounds. You just can't do that. You have to go, okay, this is what I want to change. This is what I want to do. I'm going to make a list. But in the meantime, I'm super grateful for what I have, and I think about those early times in my career where I was just establishing social media. And interestingly enough, I have a delusional amount of confidence. So when I was at 1,000 followers, I thought I made it from, you know what I mean? So from that point on, it's truly just being excited for the next thing and being hungry for opportunity. Because if you have a genuine passion for what you do, opportunity hits you like a truck, and you can either sideswipe it or you can go right into it. And a lot of people miss out on opportunity because they don't feel like they're ready, or they're not worthy, or that they just they're just not that person. But there are people out there who are happy to take that from underneath you. So it's either you or them. And I always suggest people just go for it. You never know what you're going to do. Sure, there's bumps along the road, but those bumps are in my business easy to get over, and it just takes having a good head on your shoulders. And I think that from this podcast and from your guys's from just my perspective, seeing you guys really have that drive and that ambition. And these listeners out here just need to remember to cling on to those people with that same drive, because those people help get you there. It takes a village.
Absolutely, Justin. That is so wonderfully, stated the way that you mentioned. And I think you mentioned this earlier as well. And this is something that we strongly believe is say yes to everything. Like, just say yes to every opportunity. And
don't look for the profit in it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
look at it as an opportunity to grow and to connect with the other person, or the opportunity on the other side. But I was also thinking that you mentioned about these bumps that come into your life. They should only be like those chocolate chip cookies on
I was trying to think of a baking reference. You beat me to it. I was like, those bumps in my business are actually tasty ones, and we just scoop them up and eat them. I don't know.
Yeah. What's next for Justin? What's happening with Cake with Justin? Any
Gosh,
project?
baking with Jason is my new name.
Yeah.
I don't know. I told my friend the other day that I thought that this is kind of the end, when I reached a good platform and I have a thriving business, but I think I'm just getting started, unfortunately. I think that 15 years of experience is truly just the tip of it. So I'm looking forward to TV opportunities. I'm looking forward to being a judge. I'm so tired, you guys, of being the contestant. Don't get me on that platform anymore. I don't want to turn around. I don't want to swim with sharks. I don't want to eat a bug. I'm good. Don't get me on no more TV shows as the contestant. I want to be the judge.
Justin is ready to judge. Yes.
I'm ready to get my gavel and pound it on the table.
Which brings me to a super, super serious question that I have to ask you, Justin, before I forget. Cookies or cake?
Oh, no. Cookies or cake. I'm going to lose a lot of followers from this. You've put me in a bad space. A cake always. It's cakey with Justin. It's gonna be cake forever. But the funny thing is, I make most of my money from cookies nowadays. How funny
Wow.
is that? Let me tell you guys, this is the last bit of advice before we leave this. As you don't have any idea where your trajectory is going to take you. As long as you say yes, you could be doing something polar opposite to what you thought would happen just because the opportunity presented itself. Lately, I'm doing 60-person classes every Monday, and it is the most popular thing in my town. It is crazy. So, but cakes always, cakes always.
We wish we lived in Bakersfield, and we could attend those classes, but
What a beautiful journey, Justin. Thank you for reminding us. We started off this very small, for us, it was very small when we started. And now here we are sitting with you talking about your journey. And it truly inspires us to continue doing what we are. And we have one last question to ask you, which we ask every guest that we have on our show. The name of the podcast show itself is What's Your Sankalp? And Sankalp is an Indian origin word, which means having a passion or a determination in life.
it's also his name.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
We want to ask you today, what is your Sankalp? You started off your journey, with a medical ailment, and now here you are sitting with, so much success in your life. What are you trying to achieve, with the work that you do and, everything that you do in your life? Yeah.
My motivation and where I'm trying to go with it is purely dependent on what makes me happy.
Right.
I have been lucky enough to get to this point, so now I can leverage my happiness over anything, and I'm excited to have that lead me, because wherever I go, whatever I do, as long as I am happy with it and I'm excited to do it, that's where the money is. That's where and money, I mean, just like in any way, that's where the success is. That's where you're thriving. So it has to make you happy, and you have to be passionate about it. Those are the two criteria. That's how I'm going to lead my life.
The biggest takeaway is this, how you said 17 years later, you're still, looking for that, happiness, all that you want.
It's like you say, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, I like to say that's my catchphrase or whatever you call it. It's just the beginning, and it's just the beginning for Justin as well. Yeah.
Oh, and it's just the beginning but I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you both. I have to say, looking at you two, you're a gorgeous couple, by the way. People have never seen you. You guys are stunning. And I'm so excited to see where this takes all of us. I'm glad to do it together because, like I said, it takes a village, and I'm excited to meet people just like you.
Well, we hope this, creates something in in the listeners out there, and at least it makes a difference in one person's life. That's our aim, and it made a difference in both of our lives. So, it already started. So thank you so much. Thank you so much again for your time.
And we're right here. We're always rooting for you. We will support you with all your endeavors and wish you the very best.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.